is the Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Horror Queers. We're talking spa weekends with the girls. We're talking Slovakia. And we're talking Countess Bathory arterial blood spray. I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace. And we're talking what I guess might be the death knell of the torture porn subgenre. I mean, I say that, but it was kind of like in the middle of it. Wait. Sorry. We're talking...
Take a breather, Jesus.
I know. I'm like on crack already, just like going through this shit. So after this, it was really just like Saw movies that were coming out. Like, I don't think torture porn really had much going on for it after, because this is 2007. So, correct. Yeah, I don't. Anyway, we're talking Hostel Part 2, and
and we are amped the fuck up, everybody. We have been prepping for this all day long. I've watched this movie twice. I have done research on Abu Ghraib. I've listened to a podcast on the word cunt. I am ready to go.
What is Abu Ghraib?
That is the prison that U.S. prisoners put Iraqi prisoners of war into, where they tortured them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, well, I'm going to school you and everybody who's listening, because it has to do partially, maybe, with why this film didn't do so well at the box office.
Yeah, and because I re-listened to our episode in Hostel earlier today, and we had said that this movie flopped hardcore, and while it definitely was not, like, as successful as the first one, it actually wasn't a flop.
Well, no, because it's so cheap, right?
Right, that's exactly it. I mean, granted, it did not do well, but
still got that sequel, but that sequel went direct to video.
But I think the timing of the release is really going to play a factor into what. Well, I mean, same with you. Is like what you're saying with Abu Ghraib. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, man. I don't know if I should know that.
It's a dark period in your country's history.
It's fine. I probably just... I mean, when this movie came out, it was the summer after my senior year of high school, so I was 18 years old.
Well, the events I'm talking about occurred in 2003, but...
Got it.
Yeah.
Is that the one where they were, like, posting pictures of, like, decapitations happening?
Correct.
Where they were, like, videos?
Yeah, genital mutilation, prisoners with bags over their heads.
Gotcha. But
basically a real-life hostel.
But I guess if that's happened in 2003, then that probably is what really led to the creation of torture porn in general.
Might have contributed to it, yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, okay. We'll just fucking get started. So, yes, Hostel Part 2, released on June 7th, 2007 by Lionsgate Pictures. Runtime of 94 minutes, or 95 if you watch the unrated version, which, it's basically about 30 seconds longer. The only real differences are in Heather Matarazzo's the Countess Bathory scene, which it's not even much more graphic, but it's like certain shots go on for like 1 or 2 seconds longer, specifically her throat slashing, which it shows her spraying a lot more. And then also in Roger Bart's penile
castration.
Oh yeah. Castration. Oh my god.
Like, are you looking for a fancy word?
I was like penile dismemberment. I don't.
Ooh, get that trending, everybody. Dispenisment.
I had seen, because I've seen this movie a bunch, and I forgot that in this unrated cut, like, it is just full on like prosthetic dick when it gets cut off. It is insane.
Oh yeah. There is a chock full of peen.
Which I think, because I mean, and listeners, if you haven't listened to our episode of Hostel, go back and listen to it, because we talk a lot about the overt homophobia in that movie and the kind of like toxic masculinity. And this movie, I think, takes a more critical eye on the toxic masculinity, and is also not homophobic. Depending on how you're viewing it.
Yeah.
I don't think it is, but we'll bring up some opposing or dissenting opinions.
Yes.
But you have a queer female lead in this movie.
Correct. Although the word lesbian is literally never pronounced. We do hear the word gay, but never lesbian.
When do they even say the word gay?
Whitney says something about something being so gay.
Oh, God. I don't even remember that. But you know what? At least they're not dropping fag and like...
Oh, yeah. And at least these girls are tolerable, unlike the male leads from the first film, who really just want to see get murdered.
Right? Even Whitney, the B.J. Phillips character, who is like the quote-unquote unlikable one of the group.
Yeah, she's the Paxton of the group.
Right, but she's still like, I like her.
Yeah, it's funny because I don't know that the actresses themselves are more likable than the male actors of the first film, but the characters are so much more tolerable and enjoyable.
And this movie came out, it was like a year and a half after Hostel. So also, the turnaround wasn't that long. So the fact that torture porn died that quickly is kind of insane. But
yeah,
this movie feels like a direct response to a lot of the criticisms he received from the first movie. But this one was much more poorly received, not just commercially, but critically than the first movie.
Correct. Yes. Actually, on all counts. So I managed to listen to the audio commentary. It's one of the reasons I watched the film twice. And he does talk a fair amount. Eli Roth does. He talks about how he made certain creative decisions in response to reactions from the first film.
Well, that's good, because I felt them, and that's also why I like this movie more. And I still like it more. It did hold up for me, but it did not hold up for you, Joe.
Not quite as much. So originally I had this as a 4. I downgraded it to 3.5. And I have a feeling I may be a bit more in line with some of the people who have criticisms of it. I just found it's doing a couple of things really well, and it's got some fascinating things to say. But at the same time, some of the problems bothered me a little bit more this time around.
I do. If I have one major complaint, it's that the beginning of the movie, which I still think this movie flies by relatively quickly, but because it is a lot more of the same, and at least when we come to the girls and the setup for how we get to where we're going.
Right.
The addition of showing more from the elite hunters group is a very wise decision, and I think for the most part that pays off. But yeah, I think some of the setup for the girls, despite me enjoying my time with them more so than I did with the guys in the first movie, it just kind of feels like a little bit repetitive.
Yes, and that's actually one of the major criticisms that people like to level at this film is that, it's just too much of the same thing, only he's taken girls, and so it's super fucking misogynistic now, which I don't agree with.
I don't agree with that either. And listeners, we mentioned this last week at the end of our Screen 2 episode, but we actually did try to get a couple different people. We didn't ask them specifically. Well, no, we put this episode out for a couple different potential guests, and none of them wanted to cover this. They didn't say specifically, I don't want to do Hostel Part 2, but they kept picking other movies.
Yes, we had a couple of blank entries, and we were sort of like, yeah, we're looking for guests on these dates, and people zeroed in on other dates and avoided this one like the plague.
Which I really think, granted, this movie is very gory, and I do think it is gorier than the first movie, or maybe not even gorier, but I think the violence is more visceral and effective.
It feels gorier somehow. I don't think actually either of them are that gory, all things considered. As we talked about in that very first episode,
yeah,
a lot of it is suggestion. There's a lot of editing away from the kills in this, but people, I think, have stronger reactions to this one, and I do think that it's because it's women.
I do think so too. And as we go through the plot summary, I'll mention parts where I'm like, oh, I'm surprised he didn't show X. Mm-hmm. Specifically, honestly, it's B.J. Phillips' death. But there are times where I'm like, oh, it's interesting that he shows restraint here, but then he doesn't show restraint in this other part,
Yes. No, this is the paradox that is Eli Roth. He's so complicated, Trace.
But to me, this movie felt like him growing, or at least trying something different, kind of. Whereas, some of his later works, as we discussed in the Hostel episode, I just he has yet to match this movie for me in terms of just quality and I say maturity? I don't know.
Yeah. So originally, because in that first episode, the game that we played was which of his filmography would you keep and which would you kill? And this time around, I was trying to think of some variation of that, but honestly, all of his movies just kind of ring the same to me. I don't feel like he really has matured as a filmmaker, but you're right. I think this is maybe his most adult offering. Ugh.
I 100% agree with that. The whole reason he's a thing is because Quentin Tarantino pushed Hostel for him. And that's also one of the reasons why Heather Matarazzo, who before this, besides Princess Diaries, was an indie darling for Welcome to the Dollhouse, she only really did this because of Quentin Tarantino's involvement, because she wanted to do something that Tarantino had his hands on.
Right. So for this, we get naked Heather Matarazzo.
Which I'm still shocked by.
Very shocked.
I did find a good piece, an interview with her that I'll bring up when we discuss her death scene, because I mean, I'm sure if there's one thing that is like that, the one scene that people will walk away from this movie like remembering is her death scene. And it's probably, I guess, the one that people would find the most misogynistic.
You betcha.
Okay, I'm interested to talk about that because... No, okay, we'll talk about it later. But anyway, so yeah, this movie opened June 7, 2007, and the number 6 spot with $8.2 million. Yeah.
Not good.
Also, a summer release when the first one came out in January. I think that's also quite perplexing. Like, so, torture porn, I mean, you have your Saws coming out in October, and... I guess there was some, like, Hills Have Eyes was March, but, like, I don't know. It just seems like a weird release date.
Well, we've got a mini-sode coming up on January horror releases and whether or not they're controversial or good or bad. So we'll talk about that in a bit more detail later. But I do wonder if they switched the release date for this because they thought they had a guaranteed summer performer on their hands.
And that's possible. So it went on to gross $17.6 million total domestically, whereas the first one made like over $19 million its opening weekend in January of 2006. Internationally, it made $18 million, and that made for a worldwide gross of $35.6 million. Again, against a $10 million budget, so it's fine. But what I didn't know is apparently before the release, a work print of the film leaked online, and a New Zealand publication claimed that it was the most pirated film ever, which Eli Roth suggested was a factor in the film's failure at the box office.
Yeah, I had never heard that before I started looking into the film, so that was a bit surprising. Also, interesting response considering that we just talked about Scream 2, which also had a script leak, but I guess a work print is a very different, like, this is actual footage that they're not going to reshoot.
Also, I hope that person got fired of whoever was in charge of guarding that work print.
Well, this is the difference between 1997 and 2007, right? Like, if you lose something in 2007, it's everywhere. You can't get it back. Whereas in Scream 2, it's like, oh, people had to describe the scenes or reproduce it from the photocopies.
Right. And I'm sure it did contribute to it, but honestly, I just can't see that many people really wanting to pirate this movie just based on the public interest in torture porn declining over those years.
I mean, I think it's a way for Eli Roth to maybe save a little bit of face, but I don't doubt that there were probably, I mean, we all know people who pirate movies, and there's a lot of people who say, you know what, I'm interested in seeing this, but I don't want to pay for it. So if there's already a small number of people who are going to go and see this, and then you're cutting into that by people who are like, well, I could just get it for free.
Yeah.
It is going to have an impact. But again, it's like, okay, Eli Roth. I mean, if people really wanted to see it, they would be out there supporting it. So maybe the interest was also not there.
Yeah, so critics didn't like it either. Rotten Tomatoes of 44% with an average score of 5.03 out of 10. Audience score of 39% with an average score of 5.76 out of 10. And as we discovered last week, a positive audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is a 3.5 out of 5 or higher, which is stupid, which is basically a 7 out of 10. Metacritic is 46 out of 100 with a user score of 52 out of 100. So that's actually not that bad. I mean, we discussed this with Hostel too. Well, because Hostel actually got positive reviews. I think it has a fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes with like 60-something%. I even though your opinion on the film went down, Joe, did you still like this one more than the first one?
I do. Yeah, I actually downgraded my review of the original even lower. So Hostel 2 is 3.5, Hostel is 3.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. You know, he kept mostly his same crew from the first movie, and it's a lot of the same people. And then, you know, he got his 3 girls, and I guess he watched a lot of Desperate Housewives because the 2 killers in this movie are... Well, I mean, one of them is Richard Burgi, who is most known for being Terry Hatcher's husband on Desperate Housewives. But then Roger Bart also had a season-long arc as one of Brie Vanderkamp's stalker pharmacist people.
Yes, that is actually pure coincidence. He says on the audio commentary that he has never actually seen the show because he doesn't have time for TV.
I bet that's a lie. I bet he thought that if he told people he watched Desperate Housewives, his horror bros would like eviscerate him. So he's like, what? I've never seen Desperate Housewives.
He doesn't say how he came across Roger Bart, but he definitely says that Richard Burgi was the first person that he auditioned for the role of Todd, and he just 100% nailed it.
Do we want to discuss the marketing and posters before, during, after?
I think we should do it before, and I think we should talk about the state of horror in 2007, just as some of the reasons why this film maybe wasn't received as well.
Well, okay, I agree with that. So I think a lot of the marketing on this film went off on shock value, not just in the posters and because the trailer even was like a minuscule, like it was like a teaser trailer, which I'm in support of. But what people thought Hostel was, which was just people getting tortured, is what that trailer promoted.
Yeah, it's not changing anyone's opinions, that's for sure.
It was also subtitled. It was spoken in a foreign language.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was spoken. I don't know. I didn't rewatch it before this, but I remember seeing it in theaters. And yeah, it's basically just someone like, the camera pans over torture materials, and you have like someone talking about like, like stuff, torture stuff, blah 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 blah. And
is it Slovakian?
Maybe, I don't know. But then it blacks out and it just goes, and it's like Hostel, Teil 2, like whatever part 2 is in that language.
Oh my god.
No, but so that's that. Their posters. Do you want to do a rundown of these 4 posters?
Sure. So in the original Hostel episode, we talked about the posters and how they all have weird homoerotic components to them. They seem to lose some of that playfulness, or maybe that gay guy got fired, because these posters are very straightforward. We're trying to confirm our horror cred. So the first one that they released is a teaser poster, and it just looks like a slab of cut up flesh. We're not talking like butcher shop, like meat. It's like like a dissection, like the inside of something's body. Yeah, it's actually quite gnarly looking. Naturally, that did not fly, so a bunch of theater patrons were like, what is that? Get that out of my eyesight.
I was actually working at a movie theater when that poster was released, and I did not get my hands on it. I was so mad, because I was like, that's like a fucking collector's item.
Oh, for sure, yeah, because it got pulled, so it did not stay up. So they went back to the drawing board and came back with a black and white poster of Bijou Phillips, topless, and holding her own head.
It's like behind her back, right? Like she's holding like above her butt.
Yeah. So it basically looks like she's been decapitated and she's holding her own head, and that also drew complaints. Shockingly enough, you can't show tits in some movie theater lobby.
I think the nipples were probably like blurred out, or not blurred out, but like digitally erased, because it's a profile shot of her body.
It is, yes. But needless to say, that did not fly. So then they combined the two, so it's like a fleshy Bijou Phillips holding her own head. And I never saw that one. I only ever saw it on, like online. So the one that everyone mostly associates with the film is a shot of Heather Matarazzo hanging upside down.
Yes, that's the one I remember the most. Sorry, I'm trying to look up this meaty Bijou Phillips because that's a crazy description.
Hashtag meaty Bijou Phillips.
Oh, I see it. Okay, honestly, I didn't even know that was Bijou Phillips, but it also does spoil. I mean, it spoils her death entirely because that is how she dies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so most people know the Heather Matarazzo one, and then there's one also with Roger Bart, and this one, again, kind of goes back to the homoerotic stuff. So he's just outfitted in his leather gear, and then he's holding, is it a drill at his crotch?
Yeah, it's a drill at his crotch.
Yeah.
Which, again, I almost hate that they do him on it, because one of my favorite subversions of this film is the flip-flop between those two characters once they start torturing.
Right, yes. And I think, interestingly enough, that's also one of the main criticisms, is that Roger Bart is, for lack of a better term, kind of a protagonist of this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we'll get there. That's the thing, maybe, is that, they are marketing towards just, like, people who want to see graphic violence. But that's the thing, though. You've already seen the first one, which, as we discussed in that episode, isn't as violent as people remember, but people walk away from it thinking it's a lot more violent than it actually is, just because of all the suggestion of it. This sequel was also banned in a lot of countries, and I think they got a lot of mileage out of publicizing that.
Or it just reinforced this idea that people already had in their minds that they were not a good fit for this movie, because look at all the outrage it's generating.
Yeah, so I have like a little list, but basically a court in Munich ruled the release of the film in its cut or uncut form to be punishable by law. The film was banned outright in New Zealand upon submission to the ratings board after the distributor refused to make cuts in order to receive the R18 certificate. but it did get a DVD release. And then on October 8th, 2007, so this is like months after the movie came out, it was cited in the House of Commons of the United Kingdom as an example where stills from the film could be illegal to possess under the proposed law to criminalize possessions of extreme pornography.
Yeah, which is just insane. And the person who actually presented that, who was like the MP, actually ended up admitting that he had never even seen the film. He had just been reassured by people that it was completely misogynistic and disgusting.
Yes, I have that quote. Yeah, he was assured by trusted sources that from beginning to end, it depicts obscene, misogynistic acts of brutality against women, which, again, is not true.
No. And I mean, people in the UK can correct us, but I love it every time you see a news report that comes out of Britain where they talk about a trusted source and you're like, is this the Daily Mail UK? Because that's like a tabloid kind of site.
It's like the National Enquirer in the States.
More or less, yeah. You're just, a trusted source. Like, who is not going to go on record for that? That's not controversial. So some of this stuff ended up drawing some people's ire. So if you look at the Wikipedia page for this, there's a fairly prominent woman who she dabbles in film criticism, but also she's a lawyer. Her name is Julie Hilden, and she wrote a piece called Free Speech and the Concept of Torture Porn, Why Are Critics So Hostile to Hostel 2? And in it, she basically just goes through why were critics so mean to the film. And it's almost the same argument as what this MP is doing, which is just that people went into this film with preconceived notions about the violence and because it was women, and they just immediately turned on it. So even though this film does have people who support it, it also has a lot of people who seem to just want to nitpick the depiction of violence against women, which is... I mean,
it's a valid criticism. It's a valid complaint. And I mean, anyone who again, someone posted on one of my Facebook threads today and was like, I need a PG-13 version of this movie. I can't. Why? I don't want to watch this again. And I'm like, I get it. It's not easy to watch. I do still think, though, I mean, mostly with this movie, and because the humor is still there. There's still plenty of darkly comedic moments in this movie that I personally think are more effective than the ones in the first movie, especially when it comes to the editing. There's a couple edits, like after like lines of dialogue, where it's like, oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, and Eli Roth is on record as saying that he doesn't actually consider this a sequel per se. He sees this as a continuation of the same story. So he identified elements that people said they really responded to in the first film, and then he fleshed those out to tell more or less what happens after the events of the first film.
I mean, that is the case. I mean, it does. The beginning of this film reminds me of Friday the 13th Part 2, where it's like we're following the protagonist of the first movie and they die, but we also get like a lot of recap footage of the first movie.
Or a Halloween Resurrection.
Or, yeah, exactly. Or if we're going there, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, which is 40 minutes of recap of the first movie. I never really buy that argument. I mean, not argument, but that statement was, it's not a sequel, it's a continuation of the first film.
I'm making an 8-hour movie.
The only movie that has really worked for me in terms of like, it's not its own movie, it's a continuation, and we've discussed this before, is Insidious Chapter 2, where it's like, that movie to me doesn't work on its own, but it does work if you just consider it the third act of the first movie. Not completely, but it works better.
Right, yeah. I have seen a couple of people online comment that if you play these back to back, they do feel like the second one is paying it off. But I agree. I think this is also a film that does stand on its own, and it's very clearly made, as we've suggested, based on criticisms and observations from that first film. Like, this is Eli Roth responding in part to criticism that he received on the first film and him trying to address it while simultaneously fleshing out the world of the film. So, as we talked about when we talked about Hostel Part 1, torture porn is a combination of different terms. So you've got this concept of torture, which involves sadomasochistic pleasure. There's interrogation. It gets depicted in spy movies, and it's used in police interrogations and all these other things. And then, of course, pornography, which is this idea that people might be getting off on it or were showing skin. So you put them together and you get this very clever, very marketable term. Of course, when you think about the concept of a torture porn film, there's actually very little torture in it because the torture isn't about interrogation at all. It's actually just about power relations. So it's about someone hurting somebody else, typically for pleasure. So now, if we put 2007 into perspective. So the reason that I brought up Abu Ghraib, so this is in response to the war in Iraq that began in March of 2003, and the U.S. Army and Central Intelligence Agency, aka the CIA, they committed a series of human rights violation against detainees in the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq. And the fun thing is that you can go online and you can see pictures of the physical, sexual abuse, the torture, the rape, the sodomy, and the murder of detainees. This came out in April of 2004 via a CBS News. But the reason that it's important for this particular film, it gets brought up in an article that I did for research called Hostel 2, Representations of the Body in Pain and the Cinema Experience in Torture Porn by Gabrielle Murray for Jump Cut. But she talks about this in perspective because it was in 2006 that 279 photos and 19 videos were released and made available on salon.com. So you could see edited footage, like blurry pictures. They weren't lingered on in the CBS News report. And then all of a sudden, it's all over the fucking net.
So it's like it became too real at that point then. And do you think that's like a contributing factor to like people getting turned off? Because it's like, oh, I've seen the actual torture and it is not entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fucking heavy trigger warning. You can find pictures and videos, like they're all still up there. And they look like something that you would see in Turistas or Captivity or Hostel.
See, it's so funny too because Turistas, I mean, that movie also flopped, and I actually don't hate that movie. I mean, it's not great, but it's like, you know, passable, fine thriller. But that's also not that gory. I think there's one organ transplant scene that's like kind of disturbing, also on a woman, which makes it even like somewhat. Well, do I want to say it makes it even more disturbing to say it's been done on a woman? Because then I don't know. Like, does that make it be like, oh, like women are inherently more, I don't know, sympathetic?
I mean, this is one of the main arguments that gets leveled against slasher films, right? Is that it's watching women in sustained panic and fear and death and mutilation. So that's why people have often said slasher films are just as misogynistic, and then torture porn takes it that step further, right?
Or a couple steps further, to be honest.
A couple steps, yeah. So that's the real life situation. In 2006... or like heading into 2007, by this point we had 3 Saw films, Wolf Creek, and then in 2006 alone, we had Silent Hill, Hatchet, Turistas, and the remake of Hills Have Eyes. So these are not all considered torture porn, but a lot of them did have levels of increased gore and all of that kind of leveled at them, right? There was a lot of this kind of imagery floating around, or people knew there was more on the horizon.
Yeah, and I think because you said Captivity was the month before this, right?
No, Captivity is actually like a couple weeks after this. It comes out in early July of 2007.
Really? God, I don't know why I remember that coming out in April. I mean, because again, this is the time I was working at a movie theater, so I just remember all these movies coming out. But yeah, geez, that is some shit.
Yeah. And as you said offline before we started recording, Captivity, I think, is really, that's the one that just puts the nail in the coffin for torture porn for a lot of people. I remember there was outrage about the marketing campaign where it had Alicia Cuthbert in a cage, and it, like, all of those got pulled off of billboards. And then that movie arrived. It was DOA. And after that, all we get is Saw films.
Yeah. Well, but Captivity, honestly, is just a woman being tortured from beginning to end. So that douchebag from the UK or whatever, he really should have been focusing on that shit.
Exactly, right? Okay, so I mean, I don't know that you can ever point to any one mitigating factor about why a film doesn't do well, but if you want to think about the print leak, the controversy, turning people off, as well as just this deluge of movies, a lot of them not great or not well received, it was not a very receptive welcome for a film like Hostel 2.
I mean, I think it's also a combination of, not franchise, but like subgenre fatigue. We go through horror remakes, we go through J-horror, we go through torture porn,
Yeah.
It's just subgenres have like this 2 or 3 year gap of like success. But I think because this one it's such like a niche subgenre that it didn't last as long as people thought it was going to.
Yeah, and I think this is the one that people really hold up. Like, if you say torture porn, people say Saw, and they say Hostel. But people find Saw films playful. Like, they like Jigsaw. He's arguably one of the closest things that we have to a modern...
like a slasher villain or a horror villain.
Yeah, somebody that people like. They like the doll on the tricycle. They like Jigsaw.
Which is ironic because when Hatchet was coming out, I remember like the trailer was blasting like a review quote, which I think was from Harry Knowles actually, but saying like the next icon of horror, and it's like,
oh yeah,
maybe not.
I know some people who love those Hatchet movies. I'm just like, Victor Crowley is not an interesting, like, he is so Jason-esque to me. I just can't be bothered.
Well, which is probably why they thought that about him. But I mean, I like those movies. They are stupid though, intentionally so, but still.
Yeah. I've seen the first one. I haven't seen any of the other.
2 and 3 have Danielle Harris.
I've seen the later Halloween films, but I don't remember much of them. So Danielle Harris doesn't mean that much to me.
Okay, well, she's good in it, so just saying.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway, so, okay.
All right.
Table is set. Now let's dive into this bitch.
Let's do it. So, we open up with our protagonist from the first film, Paxton, Jay Hernandez. He is awoken by security on the train and taken to the hospital, where he is questioned by the police about the factory in Slovakia. We get a little bit of imagery from part 1, including a montage of his bloody escape. And then they mention the bloodhound tattoo, and they link him to the body of Salad Fingers, which was found in the bathroom stall. And at this point, the police attack him, and it is revealed that he's just dreaming. He's actually fine. Well, he's not exactly fine. He's suffering from some pretty obvious PTSD. He's staying with his girlfriend, Stephanie, who is played by Jordan Ladd, Eli Roth regular.
I love, and I like, it makes me so, I mean, I know you want to discuss Grace one day, but like, I do love her. She's great in that movie, but like, I just wish she was more famous. Did I tell you that I saw her at a convention once, and I asked her, I was like, are you doing anything like that exciting that's coming up? And she literally looks at me and like rolls her eyes and like sighs, and she goes, nothing you'd be interested in. And I was like,
oh, that's so depressing.
No, and I was like, you'd be surprised, try me. She goes, I'm doing a lot of Lifetime stuff. And I was like, no. I'll still watch it.
I mean, David Dakota, we love you, but Lifetime, no.
But, and this is like 5 years ago. This is like my first time I did it. It's called Texas Frightmare Weekend in Dallas. But she was super nice, really chill, and But no, I'm glad that she's in this movie. But what I love or hate about her character in this scene is that she's like, he's freaking out, and her line is like, I took you back because I felt bad, but you're going crazy. I can't sleep.
Yeah, her big thing is just that he keeps having nightmares and waking her up, and she's like, I mean, we came out to my grandmother's house and you won't let me talk to my sister and all I want to do is sleep. You're like, girl.
She does not come across as likable in this scene at all.
Well, and she knows what happened to him. I could understand if he hasn't told her, but she clearly knows that Josh is dead.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
She mentions it and she just has no sympathy for him.
No, and that makes the reveal of his corpse, like when we don't really get to see her reaction to it, makes me feel a little cheated.
Yeah, so she wakes up in bed the next day and he is nowhere to be found, and she comes downstairs after seeing somebody cutting the branches off a tree. This is Eli Roth being funny, haha, there's a person with a chainsaw, and then we come downstairs and there's a decapitated body.
I do like that you can hear the cat licking his like neck wound before they even reveal the body.
Yes. Eli Roth has an interesting relationship to animals in this movie, doesn't he?
Yeah, a lot of animal stuff, a lot of really gooey sound design that really pays off, but yeah.
I will say the prosthetic decapitated Jay Hernandez, that is looking good, though. Like, that neck wound is gory.
The effects all look good. And, of course, it should come as no surprise that Nicotero did all of the special effects for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good stuff. So that's basically our open. And at this point, we don't really reference that apart from the fact that there is a biker who delivers Paxton's head to a new character named Sasha. He is not named here. We'll find out his name later, but he is played by Milan Nosko, and he is the owner of the Elite Hunting Club. And Trace, what is our fun fact about Milan Nosko?
Our fun fact. So he is the former Slovak Minister of Culture and is one of the leading personalities of the Public Against Violence movement in November 1989, which is even more ironic that he's in this movie.
Yeah, so he was an actor before he became a member of the public service, but I just love the fact that, like, what a weird casting choice. And apparently he loved it. Like, he loved this idea that he was going to be this terrible person in this torture, gore, splatter
He
film.
actually has a lot of fun with casting small parts in general. Like, the art teacher that's coming up is some old actress that had, like, retired 15 years prior, or 5 years prior. The director of Cannibal Holocaust is a cameo in this movie. Eli Roth knows cinema. He knows Italian cinema, especially. And it shows. I mean, his love for the genre shows. It's just his boyish things, like, boyish mindset that sometimes get the better of him.
Yeah, which is why he gets along so well with Quentin Tarantino, right? Because they both love cinema and they know it really well, but they also act like fucking school children.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the more enjoyable parts about going back to listen to our episode on part 1, is just how much we rag on the relationship between the two of them.
Oh, they're totally fucking behind the scenes and masturbating to their, to torture porn.
Yeah, they totally jerked off into Jay Hernandez's, like, fake napkin.
Yes.
And then that cat licked it up. Yeah. Okay, so let's introduce our new ladies for the film. Let's cut to Beth, Lauren German.
Wait, we cut to penis, I feel like. Like, it's like an immediate penis shot.
It is. Eli Roth, this is his attempt to address criticism by female fans that there were too many boobs in the first film, so he wanted to begin and end Hostel 2 with dick.
Which, you know what?
Mission accomplished.
I will take it. I will.
Yeah.
Because I think even when XL comes out later, I don't even think we get a full shot of her, like, nude body. He, like, cuts away, which I was like, good for you, Eli Roth.
Yeah, it's like a glimpse of boob, but not anything more than that.
And her nipples were CGI'd out, actually.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I personally appreciate that. I am super offended by nipples. Get those fuckers away from me. Can't wait to do Jason X so we can just get rid of the nipples.
I know. Oh, God. Stay tuned. No, but I actually, do we see any bush in this movie? But it's Heather Matarazzo's bush, but that's okay.
Yeah, the bush you least expect to see.
Yeah. So sorry. I interrupted. So we have penis, and then we have Beth.
Yeah, penis Beth, yes. So Lauren German, I forgot that she played the hitchhiker in our remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
See, that's the only thing I know her from is that. But she was also the head bitch in A Walk to Remember, which I forgot.
Haven't seen it. Sorry, Cody.
Oh, dude, it's saccharine as fuck, but it's really sweet.
Isn't it basically The Notebook for kids?
Yeah, but it came out before that. I mean, it's Nicholas Sparks, and there's of course it's like death.
Right.
But because I was like, oh, she hasn't done anything since this movie. She has made a living on TV.
Oh, really?
Yes. So she was on 2 seasons of Chicago Fire playing a lesbian again.
Yes.
But she gets killed in the 3rd season. But then she's also been on a main character on the show Lucifer since the beginning.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. And that's a 4-season run, although it's, I think, done now.
I think I thought Netflix renewed it, or maybe they renewed it for season 4 and that was it. I don't know. But
yeah, one of the two. It's either got one more season or
yeah. She's had steady work since this show ended, since this movie came out, and I was like, you know what? Good for her.
Yeah, get that TV money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so that's Beth. We've got Lorna, who is Heather Matarazzo. And then we've got Whitney, who is Bijou Phillips, and they are Americans, and they're just in Rome, studying life drawing, doing art stuff. It's unclear if this is just a summer thing for them, or if they're actively pursuing a degree.
Every plot summary I found said that they were art students, so I'm gonna say it was a degree. Although I don't buy for a second that Bijou Phillips' character is like a serious artist.
Yeah. I mean, in the commentary, Eli Roth basically just says he put a drawing pad into their hands so that he could get the dick in there.
Okay.
Because, you can't just have a nude man because people will cry foul, but if you have a nude man and then you have people doing a drawing of it, then it's art.
Well, that's your difference then, though, is, he presents the male art form as a form of art, but for all the female nudity, it's not classy nudity.
Well, and this film sort of takes a step back from the first film's treatise about vulgar Americans and the depiction of Europeans as threatening. There's a little bit, but it really disappears the minute that they decide they're not going to go to Prague, that they're going to go instead to Slovakia.
Well, but it's really, because though the introduction, not the end, but like the exploration of the elite hunting group, like, takes it away as like, oh, it's just all Europeans, and it's like, oh no, it's this actual like club, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of Americans this time.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so the other important thing about this is that obviously we get introduced to our female villain for the film, Axel, and she is played by Vera Jordanova.
She has not acted since this, I don't think, but she's a model, basically.
I mean, she gorge.
Yeah, she's super
no
hot.
Big surprise. Although, of course, I have heard people criticize this film for depicting lesbians as skinny white girls.
That is not incorrect. I actually do like her performance in this movie, though.
I do too, actually. I think she's better than the two girls from the first film. And maybe it's just because she's used differently. Like, she is the honeypot for this entire film, as opposed to those two girls who are just kind of flirty, vapid.
Yeah, but that's kind of why I mean, okay, we'll talk about homophobia coming up, I'm sure, but that's why I kind of like the lesbianism that's in this movie as opposed to like how they're done in the first movie.
Well, why do you like it? Why do you think it works better here? Is because it's more subtle?
Subtle. I also feel like there's an honesty to it that I just feel like, and maybe just because it's not douchey, you know? It's like the idea of these men going over there being like, because the way that male sexuality is presented in Hostel is like very much like straight up just fucking, you know? They just care about tits and pussy and fucking. And
pussy.
This seems more tender though, and granted, a lot of this is a combination of German's performance, and I do think that Roth writes Beth very well.
Yes, yeah, I think he writes her better, and then she humanizes the character a lot. Yeah, it's also a bit of a chaste love affair, right? Like, this isn't lecherous. The most we get is a bit of a back massage, so...
And that's also, like, there's that restraint again. Like, we don't... Because I you know, when you think, oh, Eli Roth's going to make a movie where a lesbian is the lead, isn't the first thing you're going to think of, oh, it's going to be this fucking male-gazely, ogling, like, fetishizing, like, girl-on-girl action, and he doesn't do that.
I mean, he does, but it's not to the level where you're thinking, oh my god, this is disgusting. Because it's still there. There's still a lot of longing looks between these two girls.
There are, but it's not like, you know, them fucking scissoring each other, you know?
No, it's not good manners. This is true.
Like, that's true. But I feel less like it's 13-year-old Eli Roth making this movie than I did in the first movie.
Yes, I agree with that. Okay, so we get a little bit of exposition about who these girls are. A quick phone call from Beth's father clarifies that she is super rich and he is overprotective. Only the first thing really plays in, so just bear in mind, super rich. And Whitney doesn't get along very well with Lorna because she feels that she is sexually experienced. She's mildly awkward. She really isn't happy when Beth invites Lorna to come along with them. And this clarifies that Whitney is a bit of a bitch, that Lorna is mildly awkward, and that Beth is just a genuinely kind girl.
Yeah, and I think, though, and they don't really explore it much, but Lorna does have, like, a mental illness.
Yeah, I heard one of the criticisms that I saw in a half-star Letterboxd review of this film is that they kill an autistic girl. And I was like, she's not artistic. She is medicated from something that is not clarified.
I was saying, so we don't see because I remember the pills falling. I didn't remember if they showed what the label was.
No, they don't. It's basically like I think it's either antidepressants or anxiety medication. That's what Eli Roth said.
Gotcha. Well, because Heather Wixson with Daily Dead did an interview with Heather Matarazzo last April, actually, so it's very recent. But she mentions that the reason that she came on the film was Quentin Tarantino, but she also wanted to spend 3 months in Prague.
Sure. Again, girls, get on that.
Yeah, exactly. But she goes, I liked my character though, and the truth is that the reason Lorna is so relatable is because I think that we all have had that within us, right? We all have something that we're struggling with. But I thought it was interesting how she was also dealing with some mental health issues, which was something that I think was often overlooked then too. It's interesting for me to look back now over 10 years from when I initially came onto the project and getting to see how she was this young woman who was very, very sheltered and very naive, but there was a slight sense of privilege and entitlement to her and her friends.
Yeah, I think more so the friends than her, but I do remember criticisms, and this is me personally, as opposed to being able to generalize it, but some of the people that I knew who had seen it criticize this particular character, like Lorna, as being annoying because she's kind of whiny, she's kind of ditzy, like she seems ill prepared for the world, and they were less surprised that she falls victim to this.
I mean, I don't disagree that it's surprising that it's not surprising that she's the first one to go, but is she ill prepared? Yes. But I think 10 years ago I did find her annoying, but now I'm kind of like, oh, like, you know what? She's just an innocent, like, girl.
Yeah, well, maybe now's a good time to actually, I mean, we're super long into this, but I think it's actually a very valid point that you and I should bring this up. When we told people we were covering this, not only was it difficult to find a guest for this, we got a lot of pushback from people just being like, I can't watch this film. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I just think these films are misogynistic or they're just offensive. And I really feel like people need to revisit this movie because I think they have misconceptions or they have a weird haze on how it plays out. If you go back and watch this film is totally fucking prescient around how women get treated by men, like when they're traveling, how they get drugged. Like, it felt timely then, and it feels even more so now.
No, there's a moment later in the film at the festival when that creepy concierge gives Beth a drink, and she looks at it and she's like, no, and she like tosses it out. And I'm like, there's so many good moments and that's why I wish we had a female on this particular episode, and why we were trying to get one for this, because I think that the female opinion of this movie I'm interested to know what women think of this, and if it's maybe even scarier for them, because not only are they faced with the task of like, oh, like, you know, we might get killed, but it's like, yeah, like, it's men taking advantage of women, drugging them. Like, you know, Lorna pretty much has that exact same thing happen to her.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good segue back into the plot. So they're headed to Prague for a quickie vacation, and at this point they see that Axel is on the train, and they try to score drugs. Whitney tries to play into a female persona that will be easier to manipulate men, shall we say. And it's obviously very much a performance, but she runs afoul of some really skeezy Italian guys. And by the way, this is Eli Roth commenting on 70s Giallo, where it's a group of women travel over a long weekend or go on a vacation. They get in over their heads and they end up getting brutally murdered. So
yeah,
he says the first film is in reference to Asian cinema, and this film is in reference to Giallo. So I'm actually also a little surprised that you like it as much, Trace.
I know, right? Well, because it's not narratively stupid. He actually does he has a few cool filmmaking techniques in this film. One of them though I love is when they're off doing that, Lauren is in the room and there's the creepy guy like looking at her, and they go through a tunnel, and like when the lights come back on, he's all of a sudden like in the room behind her.
It's so creepy.
I love it. It's really good.
Yeah, and I love the fact that there's no subtlety to any of this either. So when you see this man, he looks like a rapist.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, don't ask me to go on record as to what a rapist looks like, but when you see this guy, you can very obviously tell he's trouble.
But then the film subverts your expectations, because all he does is steal her iPod, which sends her in a tizzy, because it's only a way to get XL into their car.
Exactly. Yeah. So Excel uses this as an opportunity to say, oh, well, you know what? You're just going to be encountering more of these assholes like the guys that tried to sell you drugs or this guy who stole your iPod.
Right.
You should come with me to the spa in Slovakia. And the other important thing to note here is that we get the first taste of Beth's reaction to the word cunt.
Oh, yes. I forgot about... Oh, I mean, I didn't forget about this. I knew this. Yes. Go ahead, Joe. Explain it.
Okay, so these Italian guys that Whitney is trying to score drugs off of, they're obviously, you know, they're very nice. They invite the girls to stay in their room. They want to party with them. Oh, there's 3 of you. Oh, there's a bunch of us. And the girls get very clearly uncomfortable with this idea. These boys are skeezy, so it's no surprise. And they start to find a way to get out of it. And as soon as they say, no, you know what, we're fine. Don't worry about us. We're going to go. These guys just flip on a dime, and the main guy calls Beth, like, don't be, you know, like,
an American cunt or something.
Yeah, basically he calls her a cock tease, but he uses the word cunt, and she flips out on him, and like to the point where she looks like she wants to fight him, and Whitney has to pull her back and chastise her gently to say, you know, we're not on campus. You can't go to the dean and complain about this.
And then it's like, and she's like, I just hate that word. I hate it so fucking much. And it's like, I've never heard of like Chekhov's cunt before, but it plays a big part later.
It really does. And I think this is, again, an interesting feminist critique. So I mentioned I was doing research. I tweeted this out on our Horror Queers Twitter account that I was researching the word cunt just to see if I could, you know, be... Yeah.
You're probably on some list now.
Well, because this film very knowing, like, you're right, it's Chekhov's cunt. And yes, we're saying it a lot. And part of the reason that I want to say this and that I wanted to do research on it is because this is such a powerful, controversial word, right?
It is.
It's arguably, it's faggot for us, and it's cunt for women.
Yep. And
there's a historical relationship to the way people react to these. And we've actually had people come down on us for using the word cunt. Somebody challenged us in one of our written articles on Bloody because we called a female character cunty.
Oh, no. I refer to you as being cunty, or myself as being cunty. But yes,
that sounds a lot more appropriate, actually. but
nevertheless, yeah, no, you're right. I've made clear in this podcast before, I love using the word cunt, but like it's a harsh word, and I've met plenty of women or men actually that just say I cannot say that word. I don't like that word, and I get it. I get it. I just like saying it.
So basically, at this point, yes, a spa in Slovakia sounds great. Let's go there.
And editing humor, they say, do you know a good place we can stay? Cut to a sign that says hostel.
Yes, and of course this is a very familiar hostel. Okay, so they arrive at this hostel, they check in, it's the same concierge as the first film, who apparently Eli Roth discovered he was kind of the breakout of the first Hostel film, so he wanted to bring him back, and also to clarify that he was in on it the whole time, because it's actually left ambiguous in the first film.
Well, no, this is when we get, like, because he takes their passports to go Xerox them.
Well, if you travel in Europe, this is actually that's not that rare. So there are certain places where they will take your passport and they will keep them under lock and key just to make sure that you don't run off. So that's what happens in the first film. And then there's other places where they will take a photocopy of it so that they have proof of who's staying there. But in both cases, of course, Eli Roth is doing that thing where he's turning a conventional regular event into something that could potentially be scary.
Gotcha.
So, as they're getting checked in, the concierge guy talks about the Harvest Festival that's happening that night. At this point, Whitney says, she doesn't want to go to that because the event sounds gay.
Gotcha. But that's the one instance compared to, like, the 50 instances in the first movie.
Correct. And she also changes her mind when she sees a hot guy named Miroslav, who is played by Stanislav Ivnesky, a.k.a. Victor Krum from Harry Potter. And when she sees that he's interested, she changes her mind.
Woo. Oh, while we're talking about Bijou Phillips being unlikable, I found this out today and I was kind of upset. Heather Matarazzo apparently was about a year sober when she arrived in Prague, and she attended a get-to-know-you party prior to shooting. She claimed she was constantly offered pills by producers to help her beat the jet lag and get some sleep, but she always turned them down. But she alleged that when Bijou Phillips found out she was sober, she pushed her against a wall and choked her for 15 to 20 seconds and said, "I'm going to make you relapse on this film." And Matarazzo was too embarrassed to tell the directors or producers about the incident.
Oh, no. That's terrible.
I know. Sorry, Bijou Phillips, if that was true. That's you're a bitch.
Yeah, that's enough to get you canceled right there. Okay, well, downer note.
So continue.
So as you alluded to earlier, the concierge scans their passports. And this is the 24-minute mark of the film. We've only followed these girls as well as our introduction with Paxton. And this is where we get the introduction to the elite hunting group more properly, as well as the first of 3 bidding sequences in the film. So we see pictures of each of the girls. There's a subsequent bidding war with a bunch of generic men, one of whom is Asian, one of whom is a woman who is on horseback for some reason, and all the rest are white guys. And one of the important things to notice in this montage as they're bidding away, breaking 50K on each of these girls, most of the men that are presented have wives and or children, just to really reinforce that these are your everyday rich asshole white guys.
I love this sequence. I think this is probably one of the best sequences in the movie, and I think in reviews, positive or negative, it's one of the highlights that people point out.
Well, yeah, because not only is this the first taste of what the background of the elite hunting group looks like, but it's really, and this is actually the real treatise of this film to Eli Roth. So he made this film not just to talk about the criticisms he received on the first film, but this is actually his takedown of the Bush era administration and things like Halliburton and more or less just rich guys going out there and making money at the expense of human lives.
So then I wonder, well, also because, yeah, it's rich, but then I'm also, because it's like taking down the 1%, but then the ending of the movie kind of undoes that.
Yeah, which is actually one of the reasons why I dropped my score, because I think it's a really confused message.
Okay, we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get there. Okay, so bidding confirmed. Todd, Richard Burgee, as well as his friend Stuart Roger Bart are confirmed they are going to kill 2 of these 3 girls. So, meanwhile, the girls are just having a great spa vacation. They're walking around. They get harassed by the bubblegum gang from the first film, which is the little kids. They spit in Lorna's face. They call them bitches. She offers them something called smint.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was either. I think it's a spearmint. I don't know. But Lorna does get a good dig at Whitney when she calls her a raving bitch.
Yeah, maybe that was a true statement. Who knows?
Probably so. Oh my god, that was an ad-lib.
Bitch. So from this point on, most of the interactions, like the girls are contrasted by what's happening with the men. So they're having this kind of carefree, hostile tourist experience. And the men are getting treated to VIP treatment. So they're arriving by private jet. They're getting picked up in fancy cars. They're getting prostitutes. They get a very funny coaster beeper that will alert them when their time has come to go to the factory.
You get that at like fucking like Chili's when you go.
I immediately thought of you and your love of chain restaurants, Trace. Trace Thurman, party of 2, your factory murder room is now available.
If only. I just, like, what, where, oh, because I actually know, because when they do get beeped, they're in the fucking brothel.
Yes, they do, yeah.
The fucking brothel.
The fucking brothel, not incorrect. So that night at the fair, we get, again, confirmation of Beth's financial status, as in, you know, hey, audience, pay attention, this is going to be important later on. And across the river, we see that the men are all hanging around because they're more or less looking at the cattle that they're going to kill.
Right.
And we get a little bit of background detail about some of the details of the contract here as well. So Whitney, she calls Miroslav Borat. That's your one incident of true xenophobia in this film.
Which, yeah, I mean, again, it's tampered down from that first movie, which is like all xenophobia.
Yeah, indeed. And there's a little bit of dancing, and Lorna she's hit on by this guy named Roman, who is a thick, scary-looking dude.
Oh, but also because Whitney tricks her into drinking by telling her the cider was made by the children.
Yes, that it's not alcoholic.
And then Beth's like, this is quite possibly the most alcoholic cider I've ever tasted.
Yeah, I do love that line.
No, there's some, I'm trying to think what's something like bitchy, or like, it's like, they're bitchy to each other, but it's not like Black Christmas where you feel like they don't like each other, you know?
Right. Yeah, so what's important to note here, and I feel like it's not very evident in the actual film, but Eli Roth goes to great pains to say, the reason that Lorna acts the way she does is because she doesn't drink and she's potentially mixing this alcohol with pills.
With her meds.
So this is why she ultimately ends up going with Roman and being abducted.
Mm-hmm.
But before that happens, we need to have a scene where Beth refuses to dance with a boy who says, "I could have helped you," before he is escorted away. The concierge offers to buy her a drink. She says yes, and then she spills it onto Stuart because she doesn't trust him.
I mean, she's a smart-ass final girl.
Yeah, she is. She's very guarded, and I don't know if part of that is us wanting to read into a lesbian reading where she's maybe not out and she's just a little bit wary about letting people in or revealing who she is.
It is puzzling that they aren't, like, it's not brought up more, but maybe that's Eli Roth saying, well, if I do that, then people are going to say that I'm fetishizing lesbianism or something.
Quite possibly. I mean, it's clear as day when you watch the movie. Like, every interaction that she has with Axel is very clearly a lesbian attraction. Yeah, it's sexualized. Again, not terribly, but
no.
The fact that it goes unsaid, it's, to me, a bit of a strength as well as a weakness of the film in that regard.
Yeah. Do you think you would feel differently if it wasn't Eli Roth behind the camera and the pen?
Probably. I mean, if I didn't even know this was an Eli Roth movie, like if I had no idea who he was and I just happened to watch it, I would probably also feel differently. We have a difficult relationship.
No, I mean, that's the thing. And I wonder if that's why I give this movie so much slack, is because I'm like, there's so much about this movie that I feel like is Eli Roth trying not to be Eli Roth that I like hold it in higher esteem because of it.
That's fair. That's fair. Particularly when you look at that first film and you're just like, you are a fucking asshole.
And the movies he's done since, like compared to Green Inferno and Knock Knock, this is a masterpiece.
I want to talk a little bit more about Knock Knock if we have time, but we'll see.
Okay.
Okay, so she spills this drink onto Stuart, and at this point, this is where we actually get our two protagonists starting to interact. And this is the meaningful groundwork that will all be paid off in the last 10 minutes of the movie when they enter that kill room together. So, he calls her by name accidentally. That's another big kind of tip-off where she's worried. So, Lorna goes off with Roman, she gets abducted, and Whitney is fall down drunk, literally fall down drunk.
I do like when Beth goes to tell Whitney about Lorna, and like you don't get to hear it's like in the background, but like you just see Bijou Phillips just go, she's fine.
Yeah. I mean, Bijou Phillips is having a lot of fun with Whitney.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Beth accompanies Whitney because she is going back to the room with Miroslav, and Beth wants to look out for her friend. Again, this is good female friendship depictions.
And meanwhile, Whitney's like, I hope she's in a cum coma.
Yeah, so Beth won't let Whitney go with Miroslav, and then the next morning, Lorna's not there, but they're all at the spa. Yeah, and I do love that the line, I hope she's in a cum coma, is when Bijou Phillips is in the water and she has a face mask that
looks like has a facial. Yes.
Yeah.
And then another trick of editing, because also the subversion where Miroslav is not a bad guy. I love that. But then after she says the cum coma, she goes, well, at least she has something to write about in her journal. Cut to Heather Matarazzo. Bound and gagged upside down.
Yeah, we get a little bit more with Todd and Stuart, but really it's all this. So this is now the kind of apex moment of the film. When people talk about misogyny in this film, when they talk about being unable to watch this film, this is the scene that they are always talking about.
So, okay, I understand complaints about this, but here's the thing. For me, it's such an effective scene, not only because of how it's shot, how long it goes on, but also just because of Matarazzo. Like, her cries for help. I think she calls for her mom at one point. And that's something that will always get to me if someone cries out for mom. Like, it kills me.
Well, because it infantilizes them, right? Like, it reinforces the fact this is a human being, and when you get scared, all you want is your parents. Like, that is such a childhood trauma.
Yeah. Also, but I also respect how much, like, because, like, she had to, oh God, hold on. Back to this Heather Wixon interview. So basically, she goes, To get her ready, they gave her an inversion machine, and for every day for about a month and a half, she would use the machine and hang upside down for 2 minutes at a time, then 3, then 4, eventually getting up to 20 minutes.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy. But on the day they were shooting, they weren't going to have to take her down every 5 minutes, because then that would be 10 minutes into the schedule and do it every 5 minutes. It just wouldn't work, and they had to shoot it in 2 days. So, but then when it comes to her nudity, she says, in terms of getting naked and having to show my body, I felt really lucky and grateful that everyone was incredibly respectful. The days we were shooting that, I had this pink robe on, and I would go on set, and everybody's just very tense. You can hear a pin drop. She heard a Czech saying, and I'm going to butcher this, but it's Dobrý den prsa ven, which means good day, tits out.
Oh, okay.
So when I walked on set for the first time, I could just feel the palpable tension in the room. I took off my pink robe and said in front of everybody that phrase. Everyone struggled for a second, and then they just started laughing hysterically. It broke the tension, broke the ice, and that was it. But the truth is, those 2 days of filming were a complete blur. I would hang probably 15 feet up in the air, and the only safety precaution was that her feet were in stirrups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she could release herself. She knew how to get in and out of it, and she felt very comfortable with it. So it does sound like it wasn't a bad experience. When you read the way that she talks about it compared to how Bijou Phillips talks about her death scene, they have very different reactions.
Which is funny because Bijou Phillips is the least disturbing of the two.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's still upsetting, and we'll get to that later. But
yeah. But when it comes to the misogyny, because here's my thing. It's also because Matarazzo, and this might sound douchey or ignorant, so I mean, again, you can counter me on this, but
okay, we'll
Matarazzo chose to do this. She knew what she was getting into. She appreciates being comfortable on set. She's clearly fine with the scene in its final form, even with how it that scene is what gets this movie banned in a lot of countries.
Right.
Does that not play a part into these misogynistic accusations of how it is misogynistic?
No, I don't think for a lot of people. Now, I don't think it's incorrect, but I think at the end of the day, what people take away from this is a male director who puts a nubile young woman, he hangs her upside down, naked, the camera lingers. To be honest, not as much as you might expect, considering how long this scene is. It goes on for about 6 minutes.
I actually don't think that she's sexualized at all in this scene, despite her nudity. Now, granted, Bathory is.
Which is where I think the other accusation comes from, because Eli Roth wrote and directs, right? So this is his idea that of all the scenes he could have done, he decides to have this woman naked, upside down, and then a woman who writhes orgasmically in her blood. Whether or not we all know that this is based in historical fact / urban legend.
Right, that Bathory would bathe in blood to retain her youth.
Yeah, and I mean, also, as we talked about in the first film, this is a vain depiction of women, right? So it's a woman who's bathing in the blood of someone to presumably stay young or get off on it sexually. So you could see Eli Roth saying, well, it's not like I had a man underneath this, but then a lot of women say, oh, well, it's just another vain depiction of women, and you've got this nude girl up there, fuck off.
Yeah. And this is a scene that does profoundly disturb me, not because it's a woman, but just because, I mean, even if it had been a man tied on, upside down like that, and doing the exact same things that Matarazzo was doing, I would still find it equally as disturbing, just because it's this. I have in my notes, Jesus, this is brutal.
It's visceral watching this. So in case people haven't seen it and don't plan to watch it, this woman is lying underneath Heather Matarazzo. She's got a giant scythe and she's just scraping it along her body. Good sound design again.
Yeah, there's a part where she rubs it down. She doesn't cut her, but it's just running down her skin, and you hear it because she hits a ridge of I guess fat, I guess you would say, or something, but a roll, and it skips a beat. It skips a section, and you hear it just scrape. Oh, it's so intense.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course at a certain point she decides she's going to start cutting, so she's slashing. This is where the cries really begin.
Well, because she cuts the gag off of her, and as soon as she does, that's when she is going nuts. Yeah. I think honestly hearing this scene is harder for me than seeing it.
It is. It's deeply upsetting. It's also in certain ways heavily theatrical. So Eli Roth actually talked about the fact that they tried this with different music behind the scenes, and he ultimately says that he had to shoot this completely differently from every other scene in the film, and he shoots it, he equivocates it to shooting it like a Hammer horror film. So it's very like grand guignol.
Is there, I don't remember, is there a score in this scene?
I think there is.
Okay. I mean, I could not tell you.
So that is the end of Lorna. Alas, rest in peace.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what? It's the scene that this movie is remembered for.
Oh yeah, and he calls this is the set piece for Eli Roth. This was always intended to be the big one, which is kind of crazy because this is not the climax of the movie.
Well, and it's also like, because I mean, I love Heather Matarazzo. I mean, I think she's fantastic, but it's also like it's an interesting casting decision for this movie.
Yes, I remember being very perplexed when I saw the casting notices. I didn't know the other two actresses, but I knew Heather Matarazzo because I had seen Welcome to the Dollhouse.
And it's like, why is she?
Yeah, exactly. What the fuck is she doing in this? I mean, this is what you love, Trace. This is a female actress trying to break out of her comfort zone and do something very different.
I mean, yeah, because she was probably like, well, Scream 3 didn't really scratch my itch for horror, so let me do this one now.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to it. But yeah, final say, I understand the complaints about misogyny because this is the most brutal scene against a woman in the film, but we're not done yet.
We're not done yet.
But I don't know. I mean, like, I'm trying to think of it. I mean, it is more brutal than anything in the first movie. But
yeah.
But is it Josh? Whatever, the first guy that gets his Achilles tendon cut. I mean, that scene is also very brutal, but there's more cutaways in that scene.
Yes. Yeah, it's also shorter.
Yeah, much shorter.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, we're back at the spa, and Beth is a little bit despondent. She's worried about Lorna. Axel is giving her a back rub. Whitney has gone off to have sex with Miroslav. And this is actually my favorite edit in the entire film. So Beth closes her eyes, and before she does so, the spa is completely populated with other people. And then when she opens it, she's completely alone. And to me, this is terrifying because she starts to see men in black coming at her, and there's no escape. So she's, going around the spa. It's in Iceland, apparently. There's your Eli Roth Iceland connection once again. Mm-hmm. And she ends up going over the wall. There's barbed wire, which is another just choice set design piece. So you're like, why is there a spa with fucking barbed wire on the edge?
But then we get more resourcefulness from her because then she starts climbing up this like rock wall of like a fountain type thing. I'm like,
yep.
Go you, bitch. Like, fuck. Like the whole time, every time Beth does something, I'm like, God, you're smart.
Yeah, Beth is on top of it. Her biggest issue is actually that she is empathetic and she doesn't just leave, right?
Well, and yes, there's potentially more there.
So she escapes from there. She ends up having a run-in with the guy who tried to warn her. His face is all messed up, so clearly the town has gotten to him. She goes into the woods. She has an encounter with the bubblegum gang. They end up beating her, and she is rescued by Axel and Sasha, who whisk her away into a car, and Sasha actually shoots one of the kids.
Which no one ever talks about.
No one ever talks about it. And Eli Roth actually makes mention of that specifically on the audio commentary. He says people love to come at him for the violence in this film, and no one ever talks about the fact that he kills this kid.
Well, he also doesn't show. I mean, he shows the body later, but it's like facing away. But like,
there's blood coming out of the like from underneath, though.
Oh, I guess that's true. But like, you still don't see the killing blow, like, because the camera's pointed at Sasha when it happens.
Yeah. So this is another indictment of the Bush administration and this idea that, violence begets violence. So in the case of the film, Sasha is more or less asserting his authority, and these kids will grow up to learn that you solve your problems with violence, and the strongest person, the person with the gun, is the person who wins.
Well, I'm all there for a kid death, so.
Yeah, this one doesn't satisfy me.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I want my kids deader. So we're now moving into the last act. Sasha takes Beth back to his place. It's a palace. It's gorgeous. He's got those dumb dogs that Axel is petting.
I do love, though, when she's like, what does he do? He does auctions.
Yeah, that is one way of putting it. So we get the polite experience that Beth is encountering contrasted by what Whitney is going through. She's tied up in the factory with a bunch of random girls. She's then taken for makeup with an old biddy who...
I love that phrase, old biddy.
Old biddy. And Whitney bites the nose off of this woman and then tries to escape. And this is partially, we spent a lot of time in Scream talking about how geography gets used in horror films so that you know the layout, so that when there's a scary sequence, you can benefit from, okay, they went there, they should have gone there, and so on. And this is really just to confirm, once again, there is no escape from this factory. There's cameras everywhere, there's guards, and there's guard dogs.
I will say that it's the same factory as the first one, because like we see that at the out, like the long shot of the out, like the entrance of it, where it's just like this big, like dilapidated factory. But on the inside, like it looks like it's just like, you know, the guys looking at the security camera, and then there's one hallway in front of them, and that's like where everyone is.
Yeah, I think there's a kill floor, and then there's that's below ground, and then there's
there's the elevator. Yeah. There's a cool bit though when they close the gates and like she's like banging and like you just see the security guards like just looking at her, laughing at her on the cameras.
Yeah, it's grody.
Yeah.
So again, you know, if you were a woman and watching this, you might think, I don't love that. Okay, so Axel is actually preening Beth to make her up and make her essentially look like her. So she fixes her hair, she does her makeup, she gives her clothes. At this point, Beth realizes, I'm totally fucked. She discovers a literal trophy room of heads, including Paxton's.
Well, and she also sees a picture of her with Svetlana and Natalia from the first movie, and a picture of her with the robber from the train.
Yeah, just in case you couldn't figure it out, Axel has been in on this the whole time.
It's like, you don't remember this guy? Cool, here are the two girls from the first movie. Don't remember them? Cool, here's Paxton's head.
Beth, you in danger, girl. Okay, so Todd, his beeper goes off, which means that it's time for him and Stuart to go. And this is another interesting choice. Apparently, this entire scene of them traveling to the factory, walking through, getting prepped, apparently there was all dialogue here, and Eli Roth cut it so that he could use this kind of foreign opera because he felt that it actually gave it a sense of melancholiness that was absent, which I think works.
That I remember again watching this at 1:00 in the morning last night. They're just being like, "That's an interesting choice of music," but yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. So Todd has Whitney in his kill room, and this is the other misogynistic complaint: is that Whitney has been done up in makeup. She's got the ball gag in her mouth, and she's dressed up in lingerie.
Yeah.
So women didn't like that.
Right, because you don't have the same thing. Well, no, because Josh is in his boxers in the first movie.
Yeah, but it's really not the same kind of thing, right?
I mean,
like,
I get that. I feel like I'm going to come across like, well, the men had this and the women didn't, so it's really the same. I'm sorry, that's not what I'm trying
aren't
to
the
say.
sexes and genders equal at this point?
I hate women. Blah, blah, blah.
I mean, we've established that over the last year.
No. I mean, I feel like I'm coming across like an anti-feminist, and I'm really not trying to. I'm just trying to like suss out the reasonings behind some of these things. But yeah, you're right. Why does she have to be in her underwear?
Yeah, it really is tricky. I don't know if it's that because we have seen this for decades at this point, we're just more cued to paying attention to it and taking grievance with it. I feel like people also have a weirder relationship to male sexuality, and maybe we can discuss that when we get to the penis.
Well, I also think, and I'm just filling in the blanks here, and I might just be excusing it for it, but I also believe that given who is her torturer, because again, they clearly ask for things specifically. I believe that Todd would have asked to have her in her underwear.
Oh, yes, yeah, because it's the same reason why Beth is dressed up like Stuart's wife. Who I kind of love that the lesbian ends up getting dressed up in like the power suit.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes, lesbian. Stereotype. But okay, so we'll just go through the Todd stuff, even though it's actually intercut with what's happening with Stuart and Beth. So Todd, he accidentally scalps Whitney. It's actually a mildly amusing if you can get past how terrible it is.
Well, because he has the first gag where like he unplugs the buzzsaw by accident by moving it too far.
Yes.
And then he keeps holding it up to her face as he's trying to like make her cry more, and then he accidentally like just like and it is horrible.
It's horrible, but it is a moment of comedy. Like, it is clearly intended to be funny and to reinforce the fact that he is shit at this. I think it does both.
Well, and because the camera also keeps panning back to the plug because it keeps tugging on it, so you think it's going to unplug again. So, again, subverting your expectations, it's not what happens.
Yeah, so poor Whitney is unfortunately still alive, but she has been partially scalped by this bandsaw. And Todd can't take it, so he leaves. He refuses to finish the job, which is part of the contract.
This just became very real to him, realer than he thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and he has a bit of a breakdown, so he tells the guy to fuck off. It doesn't matter, he's got the money, so he's just going to leave. He gets into the elevator, he has a breakdown, but it's very short-lived because, of course, by not fulfilling his contract, he is now fodder for the dogs. Part 1.
They love showing his mutilated corpse in this movie. It is torn to shreds by these dogs.
Yes, good job, Mr. Nicotero, because that carcass looks... There's apparently just a touch of little steam when you cut back to the dogs and the corpse.
I believe that. Well, because no, they show it in the elevator, and then they show it later when they're wheeling, when Roger Bart's like, "Where's my friend?" And then it just shows the cart going by.
Love it. Because really, I mean, Todd is the shithead throughout this entire film, right? He's talking up about how this is what men do, you know, like substitute in apex predator,
See,
blah, blah, blah.
I like this critique on toxic masculinity and how, oh, look, this man who's the tough one, well, and we'll get into it with Stuart in a bit, but like, oh, he's actually like can't handle it. But then is it trying to say, oh, he's more effeminate because he can't handle it?
No, I think it's saying that people can sometimes talk a big game, but then when they're presented with the consequences of their actions and it becomes real, they can't handle it.
I actually relate that a lot to troll culture nowadays too, where it's like the anonymity of being online, you know, gives you the power to say and do whatever you want, but then like when faced IRL with it, that you cave and you can't handle it. Like that's exactly what this is.
Yeah, it's just an earlier version of it with more homicide.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's get to Beth and Stuart.
Okay.
So of course Stuart has Beth. She is dressed up like his wife, who is presented earlier in the film as a bit of a ball-busting bitch, and the kids don't appreciate him. And so he is taking his revenge out on her, but it goes back and forth a couple of different ways. It's almost like a mini vignette, like a bit of a play, right?
Because it's almost like, because he offers to help her first. But, all right, so do you think that that is genuine, or do you think that that is a ploy?
I think the first time it's genuine.
Okay. See, I thought that too, but I was like, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just a ploy for him to like soften her up a bit.
So in the commentary, Eli Roth says he was always going to go through with it, even though Stuart is presented as weaker and waffling throughout most of the film. The fact that when he's presented with this opportunity, when he goes in and he sees this table full of equipment, he doesn't turn away. He doesn't have a second thought. He looks apprehensive, but he's always going to do it.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, this is Eli Roth talking, so...
No, I know. And I do like Roger Bart. Also, interesting casting. So I actually thought that Roger Bart always was gay. I always thought he was a gay man.
Me too. I feel like we've talked about this before, though
maybe
I don't know
so. And he does play typically effeminate or gay roles. I mean, if you've ever seen The Producers, the movie version, Jesus Christ.
His role in Desperate Housewives is also as one of the two gay married men on the street.
Right, but he's still obsessed with Brie. It's really weird. But yeah, and so I
mean,
thought,
aren't we all? It's Marsha Cross.
I know. So I thought that was interesting casting because, I mean, I think it adds...
It's playing into who we believe Roger Bart to be or what we associate him with from prior roles.
It also is kind of a commentary on what we associate to be gay or feminine, because he is, I think, a more effeminate man, but he is a straight man.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a good mirror back to us. Like, so why do we think that he might be gay? Because he's not the Todd kind of character.
Exactly, and that's why I love the juxtaposition. And I right now love the switcheroo with them, but I feel like you might change my mind. So let's see.
Well, it's not my intention. Yeah, so he ends up actually releasing her, and they're having this heart-to-heart, and then it's at this point, we also got a quick cutaway that reveals that Miroslav was not in on this, and he's being eaten by a cannibal, who, of course, is that director of Cannibal Holocaust.
I forgot about that, and then, like it shows him pull the meat out of his leg and, like, go put it on the plate. It's really gross.
it's good. Again, it's another really good looking effect.
And he's just like twitching. I mean, again, the actor reactions, like him, Lorna, Whitney, like all their reactions to like what's happening to them is so visceral and realistic that it makes it that much more disturbing, despite the fact that this particular scene is also kind of played for comedy.
Yeah. So I can't remember what changes Stuart's mind, apart from the fact that does he just realize this is what he actually wants?
That's the thing. So he lets her off, and she goes to open the door, and she's like, it's locked, and then he hits her over the head. He puts her back in the chain, and then they come with Whitney's photo. And
yeah, so this is the third and final bidding sequence in the film. Or sorry, the second bidding.
Yeah. Sorry, second. But then he shows to Beth, and then he's like, your friend did, like, look at your friend, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes and kills her. Again, shown on a security camera, he decapitates her, but Roman moves in front of the footage before we actually see the killing blow, which I thought was a surprising bit of restraint. But maybe Eli Roth was like, you know what? We've already seen her get scalped, so it's probably okay to not see her get decapitated.
It's both. He actually says, I felt like I didn't need to show people what happens because I've already shown stuff, but also because he thought that people would enjoy speculating more. So I'm like,
what more is there to speculate? He
one step forward, 2 steps back.
Eli Roth, you come so close.
Yeah. Okay, so Stuart kills Whitney, and then he comes back in, and he begins to terrorize Beth by putting Whitney's locket on her. He starts to talk to her as though she is his wife, and at this point, we start to get some good psychology from Beth. Once again, she's very smart. She's on the ball.
And so, no, and I brought this up to you last night, and you kind of questioned me, but see, I brought up that Stuart is an incel, because he makes a comment about how his wife like never has sex with him, and like he does all he can for her, and she doesn't find him attractive. She's like he's the good guy, and blah 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 blah. And you're gonna laugh at me so hard. I learned literally last week that incel stood for involuntary celibate. I did not know that was what it stood for.
Well, I mean, it's one of those internet terms where you don't often hear the full term; you just hear the abbreviation.
Right, and I'm like, yeah, for sure. But I just feel like that's like again, an interesting choice to have for Eli Roth to write this, what I perceive to be an incel, into this, like, again, what I perceive to be a feminist horror film.
Right. So the only reason that I didn't agree with you is because it hadn't really occurred to me under those terms. But then when you presented it as such, I realized, yeah, you know what? This was before the term existed, but it definitely qualifies.
Got it. But yeah, the psychology going on here where she's playing into the role.
Yeah, so at this point, she does what you're told to do if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have been kidnapped, and it is that you need to help this person to understand that you're a human being. So she refers to herself as distinct from his wife because he's trying to roleplay a fantasy where he murders his bitch wife, and she's like, I'm not your wife. I'm this other girl, this nice person who's done nothing to you. And then this is actually one of the things that I had forgotten and I didn't like, which is that she turns herself into an object of desire. And there's a near rape sequence that I had completely blocked out.
I also had forgotten this, and it does feel a bit extra.
Yeah,
it doesn't
unnecessary.
Like, I get her playing into it, but like then that it gets that far to where he actually is about to like penetrate her.
Yeah, and the camera work is such that you're focused on Beth's face, which if people have watched rape revenge films, this is often how they shoot the rapes in those films. And I know that Roth would know this because he's a connoisseur of these motherfucking movies.
I do wonder if though he thinks that we think that there was never a point where Beth doesn't have the upper hand.
He doesn't mention it per se, but this was only one of 3 commentaries on the DVD that I could have watched, so maybe he talks about it on one of the other 2.
And you did say that one of the commentaries is Lauren German and the actress that plays XL, right?
Correct, yes.
See, and I would be very interested to hear that. I mean, granted, sometimes the cast commentaries, they don't really get much into the meaning of things. They just talk about the experience filming. So like it could be a hit or miss thing. But
yeah,
as 2 females, I wonder what they have to say about this scene.
Yeah, well, tell you what, I'll watch it and I'll report back. That was the main reason I didn't check it out, is because I was worried it was going to be her talking about what the process was like of filming this. So
no, I mean, I get it. And like, it very well could be.
Yeah.
I have the DVD there, so I can watch it too.
Okay. Well, we will check back in.
But yes, no, I agree. This almost like very near rape is not completely necessary.
No.
it doesn't really serve a purpose at all.
No, except to get him into a compromised situation. So she headbutts him, she hits him with a crowbar, she ties him to the chair with chains, she destroys the camera, and then she inadvertently activates the alarm, but not before puncturing his eardrum, which is a nice callback to his earlier fear of needles.
Yes, but I love like what's the code? Fuck you! What's the code? And he's like, it's your birthday. That is fucking sick.
Yeah. Which, of course, it is actually not. That is the alarm to alert the guards that she has gained the upper hand. So the guards arrived, the dogs arrived, and at this point, she has Stuart in the chair. She's got scissors over his exposed penis. She got his dick in a compromised situation.
It is real intense.
Mm-hmm. And you can see Shaft.
Oh, no, it's like, and you're about to see more of Shaft.
You betcha. So she demands to buy her way out of this. So she wants to see Sasha because she knows that Sasha is in charge. She's holding Stuart prisoner. And Sasha comes in. He doesn't really believe her. And then she starts dropping business language on him. And he starts taking her very seriously. So this is our callback to the fact that Beth has lots of money. And it is her money.
Well, and this is the thing, too, because Stuart says, I'll pay more, I'll double it. And then they bring up, you have a mortgage on your house. That's why your friend paid your way. So then it's like, oh, the poor have no power.
Yeah, so this was actually the other piece that I ended up not liking.
So Jordan Crucchiola actually replied to my tweet about this movie, and she goes, let's also not forget my favorite moral of Hostel 2, rich people always win. It's like an anti-eat the rich movie.
A little bit, because the whole thing seems like a class critique about these rich men who can do whatever they want, which is aping the first film, but of course because we're actually seeing behind the scenes and seeing how awful these guys are, it starts to hit home more. But then the end of this film subverts that, but not in a good way, because it really does say, like, if she didn't have money, she would just be dead.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work for me. That it defangs the feminism of the message, and it also defangs the class critique.
Yeah, because it's basically like, it's not her femininity that gets her out, it's her wealth, it's her stature, it's her position, her wealth.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that it's not her money. Like, she didn't make this money herself,
right,
even. It's an inheritance from her dead mom. So you can't even make the argument that she is savvy. That's undeniable. She's played it smart this whole film. She's done nothing to justify being in this situation in the way that assholes could normally say. Like, she didn't get drunk and go off with a guy in a boat like Lorna, and she didn't fuck a guy in a sauna like Whitney. She literally just ended up here.
So this is what I want to bring up then too, because former guest BJ Colangelo also had something to say about this film. She's not a fan of this movie or Roth. So I mentioned how I love the fact that we have like a smart, likable, relatable, and queer final girl in this movie. BJ responded with, except if she didn't have the queer attraction in the first place, the whole film would have been avoided. It feels like a cautionary tale of giving in to your desires, unless you're as rich as Ellen and can protect yourself. And then I mentioned, like, well, it's kind of the same in the first movie, though. You know, like, the guys, like, they give in to their desires and they're killed for it. Mm-hmm. And she said, the difference is that there isn't an expected warning about being straight the way there is being queer, so that the first movie isn't the same message. It's romanticized for straight Americans to have a once-in-a-lifetime love connection in Europe. Queerness is us asking for it. Or if, like, you know, people are like, oh, like, you know, you'll go to Europe and have a magical tryst. Queer people are killed and comments read, they should know better.
Yeah, I had conflicting emotions when I saw that, because I don't necessarily think she's wrong, but at the same time, I don't feel like that's the message that people take away from this.
Well, so here's the thing, though. I mean, like, and this is really getting into, like, an intentionality versus, like, I don't know what. But I don't think that's Roth's intention at all.
No. Although we've never shied away from being like, well, fuck that, because that's a reading, and we disagree with it.
That's exactly what I'm saying, though. 100%. Is the movie to blame if people walk away from that? I don't know, because I also think it's just the life that the culture, even back in 2007, or, you know, like,
or especially because of 2007,
right? But, like, it's a combination of factors that if someone takes that away from this movie, it's like, okay, well, is that the movie's fault? Of course, yes, partly. But it's also like, I didn't walk away from this movie thinking that. Mm-hmm. But if BJ does, I mean, that, again,
it doesn't negate her reading. Yeah.
No, not at all. Because that, as we mentioned, it is a reading of a film. You can read a film any way you want based on, but going into a reading of a film is based on your life experiences.
Yeah, I mean the other thing that I said I don't necessarily agree with BJ, but then when I was thinking back to that and writing this recap, which is, I apologize, has gone very long.
It's okay.
I did think of this final scene. So, she gets her way out, she gets a tattoo, and then the final scene of this movie is her getting her revenge on Axel.
Mm-hmm.
And she becomes this queer avenging angel who punishes the girl who misled her. And I thought to myself, okay, so if we do end up looking at this film as a queer warning, don't trust strangers who don't trust your attraction and follow a stranger to a weird foreign country. Think about what it also turns Beth into. The whole movie, she's been this sane, rational, deeply empathetic individual, and the final scene of this movie is her fucking decapitating this girl that she had a crush on.
Reading's a reading. You can read a movie however you want, but in terms of how I feel what the film is trying to say, I don't think the film is trying to say anything negative about queerness or oh, it's bad to be queer. It's her falling for this is it's because she was queer. But I definitely do think the film is wanting us to root for this final scene. And admittedly, I do. And it's played for laughs again because the music that plays when they play soccer with her head is very goofy.
Very goofy.
But yes, looking at it, I'm like, should I be rooting for this? Should I be happy that she's now part of the elite hunting group?
Yeah, because if you compare it to the original film where the two other girls get killed, that's only because they're in the street and Paxton sees them. Yeah, he could have chosen to go around them, but he doesn't. He drives over them. But, that feels more like it wasn't motive driven. It was a moment of indecision where he said, you know what, I could choose to be the better person and not kill these girls, but you know what, fuck them, I want revenge, and he does. Whereas here, Beth had to coordinate this with the bubblegum gang.
Yeah.
So that they would set up this trap with Axel so that she could then decapitate her. And that, I don't know. I don't love that message. I also don't love that she gets her elite hunting group tattoo on a tramp stamp.
Yeah. It's
I had forgotten that, and all I could think of was no one else gets this anywhere, and maybe it's just, she's trying to put it somewhere that it'll be covered up, but at the same time, this is Eli Roth, and we know that he has certain opinions about the depiction of women, so for a woman to then get a tattoo on a tramp stamp.
And that's the thing too, is, it's would you feel differently if it was a different director and writer? I mean, it doesn't matter because it is the way it is. But it's because it's Eli Roth, it's all automatically looked at more harshly, I feel like.
I'm being more critical, perhaps,
right.
But...
I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't, because based on what we've seen from Eli Roth.
Right. I am justified in this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So this is the end of our film. It ends with Axel's decapitated head getting played to jaunty music.
And we did gloss over him calling her a cunt.
Sorry, yes. So she is bartering with Sasha, and Sasha is totally going in. He's like, yeah, you know what? As long as you've got the money and as long as you're prepared to kill someone, I'll let you out of here. And Stuart is having none of it, and he calls her...
a stupid fucking cunt.
Yeah, he says, they're still going to kill you, you stupid fucking cunt. And she says, what did you call me? And he says, I called you a cunt. And as we know, this is Beth's trigger word, and she lops off that dick, walks out of the room, and feeds it to the dogs.
The scene, though, so the scene where she grabs the dick is 2 seconds longer in the animated cut, because it is full, shaft and balls that you just see.
You see everything.
And it is an enormous penis, because it's totally flaccid. Obviously, you got a vice on your dick, you're going to be flaccid as fuck. And it is enormous.
Yeah, and this is Eli Roth trying to give people a fuck yeah moment where all the guys in the audience go, ooh, and all the girls do a fist pump cheer kind of deal.
And listeners, please let us know your reactions to that scene.
I mean, I do. I buy into it. I 100% support Beth. I am all about the fuck yeah, because that guy is a dick and he deserves to lose his. Now, I do want to just just because the word cunt is so significant in this film, I thought that it was interesting, given also our tendency to use it in an affectionate or...
Not so affectionate.
Well, no, I feel like we use it in a way where we're trying to reappropriate the term and take the stigma out of it. And I appreciate that, as you said earlier, not everybody feels that way, but I do want to direct people to a source that I found when I was doing some research on this. So there's a podcast, it's discontinued now, but it's called Very Bad Words by Matt Findler. And he takes one bad word or one phrase for each episode, and he has an author named Katrin Redford on this episode, which is about the C word. And she talks about her experience reading this really infamous book from 1998 called Cunt, A Declaration of Independence, and how it changed the way that she looks at the term. And I'll just direct people to listen to that or to do a bit of research on it. But
we'll post it in the socials.
Yeah. The big takeaway that I got from it was a lot of people say, oh, well, why would you say the word cunt when you could say vagina? And the fact is that they're not the same word. And I didn't know this, so I'm going to share it. So vagina has Latin origins, like a lot of other words. And one of the definitions is that it is a sword sheath. And if that sounds awkward or weird to you, it's because one of the ways that vagina is literally like the nomenclature of it is that it is for birthing children, and it is to basically it is a path for a penis. Oh. So if you want to get into problematic words, like that's actually not great if all things considered. Whereas if you want to be more appropriate, cunt is technically all parts. So vagina is not all female reproductive parts. It's the whole shebang, both external and internal, including the labia, the vulva, the pudendum, vagina, and clitoris. So if you want to think about the fact that we have turned cunt, which is a more appropriate word for what we're often thinking about, we have weaponized it and sexualized it. Really, at the end of the day, cunt is a more appropriate term for a strong woman with sexual desire, and we've turned that into a bad thing.
Huh.
Now, I'm not suggesting it's going to be easy for people to just be like, I'm tossing out cunt all the time here, but I think it's important to acknowledge that this is not the way the phrase began. It actually, it goes way, way, way back in terms of genealogy from around the world, but also we, more or less, patriarchy has turned it into an insult and something that is derogatory and offensive. And I guess I would encourage women to think about saying, you know what, fuck men for doing this and reclaim the cunt.
There's our subtitle for the episode. No, that's actually fast. I didn't know any of that, so that's very fascinating. I kind of love that I didn't stop you from saying that, so that's great.
Thank you for indulging me.
Okay, well, I guess
that's Hostel, too.
That's Hostel Part 2. I mean, final thoughts. This film still really works for me. I totally get, it is still problematic in some aspects. It doesn't really affect me as much as it might someone else, clearly. But I think it's Eli Roth's best film, which, again, I get isn't saying much. But I do think this is a legitimately good film. Yeah, I think that this is head and shoulders above Hostel Part 1, although I do also think that they work well as a two-part movie experience because the second one really does comment on the first one. Well, I think also if you watch them back-to-back, I think Hostel Part 2 is probably going to look better than if you just randomly watch Hostel Part 2 by itself. 100%, yeah. I do think that this film gets a lot of flack from people who either don't remember it well or they maybe went in with some preconceived notions. I think the responses that Jordan and BJ and other people, particularly feminists, have raised have merit, and that was much more glaring for me on this rewatch. But as much as I don't like Eli Roth, and I don't always like these movies, I do kind of love that we've been able to have these conversations about them. So his work sparks conversation, and I think meaningful conversation, even if the work itself doesn't always merit it. For sure. So
that's how I feel about this.
Well, and again, handling queer. I mean, there isn't really any like overt queerness. I know because you have Salad Fingers, who's gay. Handling queerness in two very different ways in these two movies.
Yes, and even the deliberate decision to cast a publicly out lesbian in Lorna. Because Heather Matarazzo is...
Oh, right. How did we not even mention that? Yes, publicly out lesbian Heather Matarazzo.
Sorry, I'm just like, oh yeah, she's one of us. Like, we don't even need to acknowledge her.
No,
Everybody
for sure.
knows, right?
Well, in case you didn't know, yeah, the most brutal kill in this movie is the lesbian actress.
Well, when you say it that way, it makes it sound like garbage.
Hey, she took the role too, okay? She wanted to take the role.
This is true. I do feel like we've given people a lot of different things to think about, though. So I would love to hear prompts from people who, you know, they feel uncomfortable revisiting this film. Do they feel like it's feminist? Do they feel like it's queer positive? Is the class critique skewered or weird or challenging? Like, people, hit us up.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, and also, I really hope y'all watch this movie. If you didn't, hopefully you listening to this makes you kind of curious to go and watch it, because it is brutal. There are some really hard to watch moments. Honestly, if you can make it past that bathroom scene, like, you'll be fine for the rest of it. But yeah, I think this is a good discussion starter of a film. And I'm happy that we covered it. I'm glad that I got to revisit it. And yeah, that's Hostel Part 2.
That's Hostel Part 2, man.
So before we announce what we're covering next week, if you want to reach us, we have our Facebook page, Horror Queers, Facebook group, Horror Queers Group. Our Twitter handle is @HorrorQueers. You can email us at horrorqueers@gmail.com. Go to iTunes and leave us a rating or review. If you want even more content, please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/horrorqueers, where you can sign up for exclusive bonus episodes covering recent horror films like The Grudge and Underwater, or listen to our audio commentary on Scream. On
Just
Scream.
Original flavor.
Joe, what are we covering next week?
Okay, so we have run out of sequels, Trace. We did Scream 2, we've done Hostel 2, and next week we would be brought up with Jennifer's Body if we were doing a match for match. So, in the spirit of lesbians, in the spirit of cheerleaders, in the spirit of lesbian cheerleaders who eat people, we're going to watch All Cheerleaders Die from 2013.
Yes, important distinction. This is Lucky McKee's All Cheerleaders Die, director of May. He apparently did do a version of this in 2001, and he remade it into the 2013 version, which is the readily available one. So if you haven't seen it before and you need to watch it, make sure you look for the 2013 one.
Mm-hmm. And this is actually a co-directed film with Chris Silverstone, who I don't know, and I didn't realize that it was. So I'm intrigued to revisit this film.
You know who that is, right? He is the director of I Know Who Killed Me.
Oh my fucking God. Oh God. Hold on to everything, folks. We may have a winner.
Honestly, I don't remember liking this movie. I don't remember enjoying it very much.
Neither do I.
It's Chris Syvertson, by the way, not Silverstone.
Thank you. Yes, I put in an L where there wasn't one.
But yes, so it'll be an experience. I've only seen it once. I don't remember much except that I didn't really like it. But maybe I'll feel differently upon analyzing it.
Right? Yeah. Surprisingly enough, when you talk about something for 2 hours, you gain a new appreciation for it.
Exactly. But yeah, okay, well, on that note, we can cross out Hostel Part 2.
Yes, and cross out Horror Queers.
Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network, home of creepy, disturbing, and terrifying creepypastas, SCP archives, weekly full cast storytelling, horror queers, genre commentary from an LGBTQ perspective, and the Boo Crew, horror-centric interviews. Listen free wherever you stream audio and at bloodydisgusting.com/podcasts.
Get in, losers. This is the Lady Killers, a Feminine Rage podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Sammy.
I'm Rocco.
And I'm May. Our podcast is a tribute to the female-identifying killers in horror and more.
Each episode will feature us, your Supreme Court of female murderers, discussing our favorite lady killers, from your Julias and Jennifers to your Carries and Christines.
We'll tell her story, decide if it's good for her horror, and answer the most important question of all: would we die for her?
Join us on Thursdays as we pull on our sweaters, snatch our ice picks, sharpen our scissors, and honor the lady killers who live on the silver screen.
No boys were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yet.
It was late in the afternoon when the professor and I took our way towards the east, whence I knew Jonathan was coming.
Jonathan Harker has asked me to note this, as he says he is hardly equal to the task, and he wants an exact record kept.
Dear Madam Mina, I have read your husband's so wonderful diary. Strange and terrible as it is true. I will pledge my life on it.
God preserve my sanity, for to this I am reduced. Safety and the assurance of safety are things of the past.
I am in hopes that I shall see more of you at Castle Dracula.
Listen to Regarding Dracula wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us online at bloody.fm.